Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Dan Orlovsky predicts the next QB of Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers have long been viewed as a model of stability, but the quarterback position has remained a puzzling challenge since Ben Roethlisberger's prime years began to fade. However, one ESPN analyst believes the organization already has its solution in place. Here's my thought on the Aaron Rodgers situation with Steelers. I think it's a done deal. I think he's 100% gonna go play for them. Now that is not me knowing anything, and there might be people who know a lot more than me. I respectfully won't believe it. I just think it's a done deal, Orlovsky said. His reasoning stems from the Steelers' organizational philosophy. Orlovsky argues that a franchise with its pedigree wouldn't leave something as crucial as its starting quarterback to chance, especially competing in a division featuring Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. With the number 21 overall selection in the 2025 NFL Draft, and what many consider a thin quarterback class beyond the top prospects, Orlovsky believes the Steelers must have a concrete plan already established. While the specifics remain murky, Orlovsky is convinced Pittsburgh's decision has essentially been made. He predicts a Rodgers signing will materialize before or after the draft, but the result is all but certain. However, Orlovsky's confidence might be overlooking the Steelers' recent track record at the position. Since Roethlisberger first mentioned retirement, the organization has struggled to craft a coherent succession strategy. From the Mason Rudolph experiment to the Kenny Pickett draft pick and subsequent Russell Wilson signing, the quarterback position hasn't been handled with the same precision that defines other aspects of the franchise. Steelers or Vikings? Latest on free agent QB Aaron Rodgers. To hear Steelers owner Art Rooney II tell it Tuesday morning at the NFL's annual league meetings, the Pittsburgh Steelers are hearing four-time MVP quarterback Aaron Rodgers is headed in our direction. But since being released by the New York Jets, Rodgers has also been linked to the Minnesota Vikings, who had conversations with Rodgers last month. He happened to be at a point in time in his career where he was free to have some real dialogue about what his future may look like, Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell said. And we happened to be one of those teams that he reached out to. And I have had a personal relationship with him going back since my playing days. A prospect's journey from Egypt to NFL draft Steelers or Vikes? Latest on Aaron Rodgers Browns Day 2 QB options Commanders feeling confident how Jenkins' move affects Packers. While Rodgers hasn't publicly tipped his hand about his decision, he visited Pittsburgh on March 21 and spent 6 hours with Steelers brass and members of the coaching staff. It was a really good day, Steelers coach Mike Tomlin said of the meeting. Specifically, he and I obviously have known of each other for some time, and so it was really good to spend some time together and get to know each other more intimately. But it is free agency, it is a process. Rodgers left Pittsburgh without agreeing to a contract, but a source with direct knowledge of the situation indicated the Steelers felt positively about the possibility of Rodgers landing with them. Since then, the Steelers have remained engaged with Rodgers, the source said. Rodgers was also filmed having a throwing session with Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf over the weekend. As the league's biggest decision-makers wrapped up their annual meetings Tuesday, however, Rodgers had yet to decide where he will play next season or if he'll play at all. Could he pivot off the Steelers and head to his old division rival? Will Tomlin ultimately lure him to the Steel City? Here's everything we know about where things stand with the coveted quarterback, courtesy of Steelers reporter Brooke Pryor and Vikings reporter Kevin Seifert. Depends on who you ask. The consensus from the Steelers is there's no drop-dead date by which they need a decision from Rodgers. So does that mean Rooney is content to keep waiting? Well, not forever, he said, but a little while longer. A little while longer, though, could be quite a few calendar pages. Though he acknowledged he would like the position to be more settled with the NFL draft less than a month away, Tomlin said roster building is continual. He also added that the quarterback vetting process hasn't kept the team from gathering information on this year's draft class or making other moves in free agency. We are weeks or so out now from the draft, and so certainly we all like to have settled circumstances, but it is a process, the acquisition of talent, whether it's at the quarterback position or all positions, Tomlin said Sunday. We spent a great bulk of our spring and offseason putting together a 90-man roster, and so it is ongoing. Tomlin set training camp as a line of demarcation where an incomplete quarterback position would hinder team development. Prior. Insider reveals Steelers' emergency option at quarterback. As things stand, the Pittsburgh Steelers are without a starting quarterback. Both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields have found greener pastures in East Rutherford. Mason Rudolph, returning after a stint with the Tennessee Titans, is poised to be the backup quarterback. For now, though, he stands atop the depth chart, waiting for Aaron Rodgers to put pen to paper. Rodgers is presumed to be the next quarterback domino to fall. He's taken a visit with Pittsburgh, worked out with receiver DK Metcalf, and frankly out of real options. However, it remains possible that Rodgers doesn't sign a contract with the Steelers, opting for retirement or a late emerging team. According to Adam Schefter, that won't be a problem addressed with a round one quarterback. I can't imagine, nor could they, that Shedeur Sanders would somehow slip that far. Let me say for the record right now, despite speculation to the contrary, I will be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers take a quarterback in round one, Schefter said. I don't think they're drafting a quarterback in round one. That's me based on conversations with a lot of different people. Taking a quarterback that early would be a hasty mistake, especially if no Sanders free fall comes to fruition. Rolling the dice on Mississippi's Jackson Dart or Alabama's Jalen Milroe is an ambitious risk on day one, and one Pittsburgh isn't well positioned to take. The path out of quarterback purgatory is through low-risk maneuvers, not forced early-round selections. General Manager Omar Khan must still have a backup plan. Rudolph isn't equipped to pilot a team for 17 games, and other options are available if Khan gets creative enough. The ESPN insider revealed the Steelers' emergency option would be Atlanta Falcons veteran Kirk Cousins. I also believe that the break-the-glass emergency plan for Pittsburgh, for Cleveland, for Minnesota if it doesn't have a backup, the break-the-glass emergency plan is you can always say I'm gonna trade a draft choice to the Atlanta Falcons for Kirk Cousins, Schefter said. You can always say we're gonna take on some of his salary. I think Kirk Cousins is sitting there as the break-the-glass emergency option for one of those teams. At the right cost, and with enough cap being sent to Atlanta, Cousins could write his closing chapter in Pittsburgh. He figures to give them at least as much potency as the passing offense had last season. Of course, there's risk in his profile. Cousins is entering his age 37 season with a torn Achilles not too far out of the rearview mirror and a steep decline in 2024, potentially brought on by a shoulder injury. The Steelers may have to compete with other teams for Cousins' services. But if there's no starting caliber rookie and no Rodgers on the roster, 17 games of Cousins looks far more palatable than the alternatives at basically any fair price. And you fan? What do you think about Kirk Cousins' situation? Write to us in the comments.